All righty. Good afternoon, everybody. We'll let the countdown go. I have a timer going here. So for those of you who sat through my keynote, there may be a little bit of redundancy, but you're going to hear about some really cool things, version 7 of doForms. And for those of you who have been waiting patiently for it, version 7 is expected to come out Monday of next week. So barring any last unforeseen issues, we've had it out in beta and customers are using it. They're running it against their forms. We've gotten very little issues with it. We've fixed anything that's come to the table. So we believe that version 7 will be out Monday of next week. So very good news. Let's jump into version 7. So what is version 7? Version 7 is a lot of customer-driven technology. We love our customers, right? We listen to our customers. In fact, you'll see a panel in about 2 hours of customers that have driven more technology into doForms probably than most of our customers put together. They just constantly push the envelope on the product. And the reason we put them on the panel because they're just very much part of the doForms family at this point. So once again, customer-driven technologies. Many of you have gotten on the phone and talked to me. I watch the feedback. So if you have feedback, I get every feedback email. And if I think that holds merit, or even if I don't, I will try to respond to you. We will try to get that product in, feature in. We can't always do it for free. We can't always do it immediately, but we will certainly contact you and figure out how to make sure that what you need is part of the doForms platform. So let's talk about, doForms 7.0, right? So doForms, great. Everybody can build forms with doForms. And we've really prided ourselves on the fact that a lot of people are out there building doForms, and these people are not necessarily long-term IT skilled individuals with development backgrounds. These are people that are executive administrators and office managers and operational people and just people with knowledge of the business, and they're out there building doForms. And if you look at the way cars are built today, right? Things have changed. Companies don't build the entire car anymore. The tires come in, the wheels come in, the engine comes in, the chassis, the body, the seats, everything is components. And we decided that it was time to do that in doForms. So I'll kind of get out of the way, but we've created in 7.0 a set of reusable components. So if you think about the transition of doForms, it started out with the individual inputs. Hey, I want a text box, I want a signature, I want a GPS stamp, right? You were able to drag those things in. And then we started going to our containers. Hey, I want to be able to control how they're laid out. I want structures like tables to make things easy to accomplish. And as we started to add a lot of features to doForms, we realized that it'd be much easier if our customers were able to look through a library of pre-built components and go, hey, call customer ahead with ETA based on current traffic conditions. Well, anybody can do that. You just have to know to get an action button, and you have to know how to have a text box called address and a text box called phone number. And then you have to bring in the action button and set it up to do a get ETA and another action button to use a phone number to call the customer. So now there'll be a component called, call customer with ETA based on current traffic conditions, and you'll be able to drag that right into your form. And there's going to be a whole suite, of components, and that component library will continue to grow. And it will just make it easier and easier for you to basically build a form by dragging components together versus dragging individual pieces together. And we believe that's going to really facilitate, that next generation of form builders who want to be able to move even quicker. And that's just saying something, because people talk about how quickly you can build stuff with doForms. So it's going to get even faster. And it's going to reduce that form build time significantly. Beyond GPS tracking, right? Touched upon this a little bit in my keynote. You get a GPS coordinate from a device. There's a lot of things that you can do with it. Everybody thinks of GPS in terms of, I'm following my vehicle and my vehicle's speeding, and I know that it's stopped, and I can tell how long it's there, and maybe I can get some engine diagnostics. A lot of people with personal devices, GPS is great. I can get directions, and I can, basically do some cool stuff as a consumer. But doForms looks at GPS and goes, there's a lot of ways that customers can take advantage of having the ability to capture that GPS coordinate on that device. So if you look at 7.0 now, the biggest thing that I'm loving for 7.0 is our ability to do geofencing. Talk about having smart forms now. Now your form is going to be able to say, I just arrived at the destination. I just departed that destination. I've been there for a half an hour. And we've made it smart, right? We made it super smart. So what's going to happen to everybody out there in real life, right? Real life. You're going to fill out your form, you're going to close it, submit it, and then you're going to get in your van and drive away. Well, how's the departure supposed to be populated into your form if you already closed it and submitted it? We've already thought of that. So in the new geofencing, the system's going to manage that. If your person finishes their form, submits it, and the departure didn't even happen yet, as soon as that departure happens, the form gets updated, the duration gets calculated, and you're good to go. All right. Those geofences are going to get sent back to our map now. So something we've been working on. Some of you have seen it. We've been a little hesitant to release it because it's the next most powerful portal in our arsenal. That's available now. We haven't officially released it yet, but I'll be talking about that in my next session. It's called Workforce Manager, and that's completely based on Google Maps and an improved view capability and a user view capability. So we'll be talking a lot more. You'll hear a lot more about Workforce Manager throughout the day. But one of the other things we added now is the ability to send a status to that map. So not only will the geofences go to that map, but you can do something like, hey, I want to go on duty from my form or a different form, and you can send that on duty status right to your map. So what we wanted to do is we wanted to have the smartest map in the industry. We don't want to just tell you, hey, your truck started moving, it went 4 miles and it stopped and it's been there for 3 hours, right? We want to be able to say, hey, your device got turned on, it's currently stopped, it started moving at 10 o'clock, the guy went on duty at 10:05, the guy arrived at his customer at 10:15, the guy opened his form at 10:17, the guy went on a break at 11 o'clock, the guy came back from break, he closed his form, submitted it, that form is now available in the map, so you can open the form up right from the map and see whatever data was collected at that job. So we want that map because we have that great user interface that most devices that are shoved under a dashboard don't have. We want that map to be able to give you all the information available to you throughout the day in real time, in map form, in the ability to open up your forms right from the map. So 7.0 has really taken the map to the next level. In the past, get address, right? We couldn't do that. We had get coordinates. Everybody has get coordinates. Well, it's really great, but human beings, if they look at a coordinate, is not going to go, yep, that's exactly where they were supposed to be. It's 17,935 by 17,936, right? No human being thinks like that. Well, now, right in your form, you just say, hey, get me the address of where my device is currently located. And we go out, we get that address, we reverse geocode your coordinates. You can put that address into your form. You could put the whole address. You could break it up by city, state, zip code, street number. You can get a map picture and put it into an image field. Total control over that address. So very, very powerful. Somebody could get there and say, hey, get the address. It determines that you're in New York, and then it automatically applies the New York tax rate. Once again, smart forms being able to tell they've gotten to the location, forms being able to tell where they are and run logic based on where they are. Get ETA based on current traffic conditions. Very, very powerful solution. So if you have a scenario where you dispatch somebody and you dispatch them a customer address and you dispatch them the customer's phone number, you could add an action button set now that basically, like I said in the component thing, says, hey, get me the current ETA based on current traffic conditions, and then do the action call button to dial auto dial. So very simply, very easy to just call your customer and go, hey, Google says I'll be there in 10 minutes according to traffic, right? Get mileage. We have a lot of customers that are starting to do travel reimbursement, not based on GPS saying that the vehicle traveled 100 miles, but Google saying, hey, the travel distance between these 2 points is 35 miles, all right? So then you go back and you say, okay, I'm reimbursing you on the 35 miles, and we're doing their travel reimbursement. We're doing their documentation for them so that they don't have to do that in the back office. The one customer that we focused on for this feature, they were basically at the end of the day, trying to get everybody's jobs, figure everything out, make calls to Google, get the print out of the map, get the mileage, put it together, send an email to their customer to get reimbursed for that travel. Now it's automatically done. The form does it and sends the email for them right after it's submitted. So their back office operation went from killing themselves to now the form does it for them. That's what doForms is all about. We want to eliminate the need for the customer to have to constantly be doing the work. We've said this time and time again, it's not about data collection. Data collection is simply replacing paper and pencil with a tablet and your finger. If you don't have all the automated workflow, if you don't have all these things running in your system, you're not going to get the benefits of all the money you're spending on tablets and data plans and software and all those things. So you really want to make it that the whole entire solution really simplifies your overall job, right? Show routes. So now you can get a route. You can get route-based driving directions. We could build a route to say, hey, I need to know the total miles my person went from home to the warehouse to their first job. Okay, hey Google, here's 3 addresses. Tell us the mileage between those 3 addresses in the order in which we gave them to you. Give me a picture that I could put it in my form so that they could see the route that was traveled that day. In addition, it's still being tracked. It's still recording every track as you're moving and posting that to the map, but we're not dependent necessarily on the GPS tracking mileage. We're getting that GPS data from Google. Get route directions. So now you can say, hey, I need directions from my home to the warehouse to the job. You can get full directions based on the route. Find closest user. Very powerful. A lot of people are saying, hey, you know, for an emergency perspective, my guy may have parked 3 blocks away and then he goes into an elevator and he gets hung up in the elevator and he hits an emergency button in doForms. And, you know, we want to be able to know where that guy is, not where his vehicle's parked. So we want that find closest user right to them. And now we can do that. You can go right into our portal and you can say find closest user, and it finds the first person that it identifies, and it tells you how far away they are. And it tells you that based on current traffic conditions. So you might have one guy that's 1 mile away and one guy that's 5 miles away, but you know, one guy may be on the other side of a bridge that's completely congested. So you want to get the guy that's 5 miles away. So very powerful technology. And things like get distance from location, right? We have a lot of customers now that are saying, hey, you know, calculate, I'm expecting this guy to be at this address. If he's more than 500 feet away from this address, don't even give him the ability to open that form, or don't even give him the ability to, you know, to process anything because he's not at the expected location, or send me a report. So something like, you know, distance from location. We also have the same thing for time, where we can automatically calculate when they were supposed to be there versus when they got there. I've been in the executive information system business. That's how I started my career. So it's not about a system that gives you 12,000 geofence alerts or a system that gives you 12 million geopoints. What you really want to know is, hey, can you run me a report that tells me how many people showed up late to their job today? Can you run me a report that says, hey, these people claim they were at the location when they were thousands of feet away from the location or miles away from the location? Show me the exceptions. So one of the things that doForms is focusing on with like time and GPS and things like finding the distance from that location are really to be able to do exception reporting for our customers and have the customers build those features into the systems they're building. Big thing for 7.0. We've been trying to really make doForms not only a form product, but an application product for a lot of years. And we have really taken that, you know, to a next level with 7.0. And what you'll find is, you know, a form is great and has captions, and it has, you know, text boxes underneath it, and there's layout, and everyone's city and state, you know, next to each other, and I'm filling out a form. But what if you were doing a timesheet? You wouldn't necessarily want your form to look, your timesheet to look like a form. You may want your timesheet to have a text box in the center that says enter your employee ID. And they do that, and there's a big button underneath it that says enter. And you hit the enter button, and it calls over the air, and it says, hey, do I have a record yet for John for today? No. Okay, then he must have to go on duty. Hide the enter button now, hide the employee ID number, and just put a big go on duty button in the middle of the form. They hit that go on duty button, and the form closes. That's it. That's all they needed to see. They didn't need a form. They didn't need captions. They didn't need anything. They just needed to follow that simple 2 or 3 step process. Now, when they come back at night, they put their ID in, they hit the big enter button, it goes out, it finds a record for today. So it says, hey, you don't need to go on duty anymore. You're already on duty. You must have to go off duty or on break or on lunch. And it only gives them those buttons and those options. Very powerful. We can make a lot of things work and function like an application now. No need to make it look like a traditional form. So as you're doing things like inventory and scanning and a bunch of different kinds of things, we're able to make it look just like a mobile application and function with logic and everything just like a mobile application. Now, you're going to hear a little bit in another presentation today about something we're calling retrieve and modify. Killer functionality. Totally changes the game of data collection. Why? Well, very simply, let's take that timesheet application. If you have a form that does it on duty in the morning, and then another form that changes the status and does it off, you know, on lunch, off lunch, and then another one that does off duty, those are 3 separate forms. They come back to the system as 3 separate forms. So now, yes, you could run a report and, you know, put them somewhere and you're going to see 9 o'clock on duty, 12 o'clock lunch, 5 o'clock here. But that data is not consolidated for you, right? It's just 3 different records. And because it's 3 different records, now you need some kind of infrastructure that says, well, how many hours did they work today, right? How many hours? They started at 9, they ended at 5. I want to deduct lunch. How do I do that? How many hours? I got 3 separate forms. I have a form builder, but I don't have a form data manipulator tool for many of these data companies, these data collection companies. Well, doForms changed all of that because now you could set up another form that has today's date, the employee ID, start time, lunch time, break time, end time, duration, right? And each one of these forms that's going on and saying I'm going on duty, well, it's also populating the on duty time in that other form. And it's populating the on lunch time in that other form. And it's populating the off duty time and it's populating the duration. So now you have a bunch of forms that were your transactional history throughout the day, but you've got one consolidated form that has John, the date, the time you went on duty, time you went on lunch, time you went off duty, how much you worked today. And now when I use Report Builder, I don't have to consolidate that data. It's already been consolidated for me and I can run an intelligent payroll report. So retrieve and modify has really changed what we're able to do. We're able to do inventory now. What if you have a field of a product table and one of the fields in that product table is quantity on hand? Well, now I can be in the field as a salesperson. I could retrieve centrally the quantity on hand. There's 10 of them, right? I've got 10 apples. Hey, I'm going to take 3 of those apples. I could immediately modify with 7.0. I could immediately modify that inventory number now to make it 7 so that the next salesperson can't go and query how many apples do we have and think they have 10 and try to sell all 10. They're only going to see 7. So in real time, we can retrieve how many apples we have in inventory and modify it before the form is even submitted to say I sold, 3 of those. Same thing. What if you want to build a queue now? Maybe you have pickers. Orders are coming in. You want the pickers in the warehouse to be able to get the next oldest job in the system, right? No problem now, retrieve and modify. You go in, you retrieve the next oldest job. You immediately modify it from pending to assigned. You document who it was assigned to, and now nobody else can get that job. That picker has that job. So very easy for us to do picking and warehousing and inventory and anything that you need us to do because of retrieve and modify. And 7.0 has taken that to the next level by making it even more powerful by being able to do modifies in real time. Getting out of my own way here a little bit. Field-to-field navigation. We've done a tremendous amount of work on making sure if you're scanning and you're hitting that scan button that it's automatically navigating to the next place you need to be so that you're not sitting there and trying to point to the right field on your form and then hitting the scan button, point to the right field. We're able to hide things and make things appear more. There's a lot more hide logic. You can now say if you click a button, hide it after click. You can say hide if a field equals a certain value. So in the past, a lot of the variables, the user permissions and rules were based on an entity type, like are you a view data person, or are you a mobile user or a web user? Now you could actually set a lot of those values equal to some field. So if you were going to pass a form to somebody and you wanted to control what they could see, you could just set a field value and the hides and read-onlys and all that stuff would basically be conformed based on those rules. We're going to see in my next presentation, you're going to hear about something called Workforce Manager. It's just a really new solution portal that's really more powerful and really user-focused and built on mapping and built on high-speed views and things of that nature. So I think everybody's going to really enjoy that. Launch forms with data. So we've done a lot to make the ability to have a form launch another form, to be able to pass data to that form, get data back from that form. User and system variables. We have user variables now, account variables. One of the things you'll see when we talked about the GPS geofencing, you could set up a geofence now for your mobile user so they can put their home address in there. You could have account-based geofences like warehouse and corporate headquarters and all of those kind of things. You could have basically form-based geofences. You can have user variables. So you could set up a user variable where it asks them, what's your home address? What's your employee ID number? What's your region? What's your supervisor's email address? And the forms could read all those user variables and system variables. You could have account variables like what's our company name, our tax ID. So the use of these variables is very powerful. So, as an example, when we were doing the stuff for travel reimbursement, we had a user variable for home address, we had a user variable for warehouse, and then what we had was the customer address being dispatched. But when we went to the next job, the mileage calculation had to be based on what was the address of my last job to my next job. So now what we did was you can write in 7.0, you can write to the user variables. So you could set up a user variable called last job address, and your first job could write upon submission, write that job address into the last job address. Now you open up the form, you can retrieve the last job address. You now got your new job address. You call Google and say, what's the distance between my last job address and my new job address? And I've got my travel reimbursement data between jobs. So very important. And then things like, dynamically adding rows. We've added features for like max number of rows. We've added different opportunities for it to, when does it jump? Does it jump after you do something or before? So we made it a little bit more user-friendly in how it automatically adds the next row. So just the application is very fluid now. Things are happening. People are clicking on things, buttons are disappearing, new pieces are appearing. Very, very form and application like. Data sources. One of the big things now, if you go out there, you can pre-filter your data sources. So what does that mean? Well, one of the biggest problems that doForms had for a long time is people were consuming data from forms into other forms. So let's say you had a form and it was going out there and it was a form for every job, right? And then you said, hey, I want to be able to use that data that I've been collecting in this other form as a source into my new form. Well, the problem is it works great on the first day, it works great on the second day, but a year later, that other form collected 1 million records, and now you're basically trying to download 1 million records over the air into your device so that you could ask that data a question, right? So now with pre-filtered data sources, if you can go into your data and say like, hey, this was paid, or this is, this kind of status or something like that, you could basically say, before you download that data source to my device, I want you to filter it. So only send me the ones that are unpaid, right? Great thing, because now we can do some really cool things like, hey, I want to build a manager workstation on a mobile device, and I want to only show them jobs that were unpaid, and I want to give them the ability to start calling people, right? So a lot of power now with pre-filtered data sources, because pre-filtered data sources will mean that you can use these ever-growing data sources, but really start to reduce them down. And then pre-filtered checklists, one of the most powerful features in doForms, and it's, a lot of people got to learn how to take better advantage of it. But if you go into a table and you basically set up checklist, what it does is it takes your data source and it opens it up and creates a row for every field, every row in your table, right? So if you have a data source of, let's say, 100 employees, and you just put that into a table as a data source and you say checklist, now instead of having a drop down of employees, it will literally create a row in your table for every employee. Well, one of our customers, actually one that's going to be in the panel today, said that's great, but here's the problem. If I do a conditional lookup on that, and then I change the conditional lookup, it changes the results of what appears in that table. And sometimes I just want to be able to filter that table. I want to be able to have 100 things in there, but at any given time, I only want to see category equals A or category equals B. But when I'm done, I still want those 100 things in the table. I don't want to delete them. I just want to sort of filter them down so it's easier for my people to work with that table. So now you have that ability. You can do filtered checklists. Once again, doForms is really getting powerful with data manipulation, data consolidation, the ability for the user to get more and more access to, conditionalize the data. Centralized data management. Once again, that's the build and the retrieve and modify. Big concept in data collection, right? The ability to effectively create another form. Well, think about it like this. If you were building a database, you would have a table and say, I want to put data into this table. So you create a form, which is the equivalent of your table, right? Your form name is your table name. The items in your form are your fields. Well, now you have the ability for your form to say, hey, not only do I want to do my data collection, but I want to populate data into this other form, right? I want to consolidate data. Maybe I want to build dashboards, right? Maybe as I'm building my form and I'm working on my form and people are collecting information, they want to have a dashboard that says how much revenue did we generate today, right? So when that form is done and it has its total revenue, at the bottom because it was an invoice, let's say, you could turn around and update a field in another form and append your revenue to that field. So with modify, you could add to it, you can delete from it, you can just change it all together. So you could go back and go, hey, I want to modify the revenue, total revenue number for the day. So now if you're the back office manager or the owner of the company, you could just go into the portal, you could look at that other form. And as people are basically collecting revenue, generating revenue all day long and populating in real time that total revenue number, you're watching this dashboard back in our, let's say, Workforce Manager or View Data, you're watching that number change. So you literally have a real-time dashboard being populated with the total revenue being generated throughout the day because the forms are able to populate that total revenue in a different table or a different form of data. So it's giving us the ability to build better reports. We're able to consolidate data. We're able to create dashboards. We're doing things like bulk updates. So one of the customers says, hey, I'm processing 1,000 invoices a day and I'm getting customers to pay, but I need to go back. I want to be able to go back to my forms and say that they're paid, right? Well, in the past, you had to go to View Data. You had to basically open the form, find the section where you could mark it as paid, close it, open up the next form. Well, now you could retrieve all of the jobs that are status equals not paid, bring them into a table in a mobile form, have one of the columns in that table be paid, yes or no. And you can go down and go, yep, I got the invoice, I got the payment for this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one. You hit your submit button and it will go back and actually modify every one of those records for you in bulk without ever having to open them up individually. So it opens the door for us to do so many different things from a management perspective. Just from, we literally now can make it so that not only are you building mobile solutions for your workers, you're building mobile solutions that your supervisors could see everything that's going on in real time. Your supervisors can take action and perform actions on their devices in real time. And everybody is involved in the process. So it really has created more of a centralized data management system versus just a single sort of data collection from one person in the whole organization. Enhanced printer support. We've had Zebra and other companies now. Brother, we've added Brother. We had Brother's full page printer for a long time. We've now added the full line of Brother label printers as well. Horizontal printing and vertical printing, additional label fonts, things like number of copies. Our printer support is just going to keep going. So as companies ask us for more and more features, we had a partner yesterday ask us if we can now print vertically and horizontally. So, one of the things I come to the conclusion, it's never going to end. People are going to ask for features and doForms for the rest of my life. I just got to man up and go, yep, what do you need? And we're going to make sure that doForms supports that stuff. So if we need the ability to put some vertical labels on this side and horizontal information in this way and another vertical on this side, we're gonna add that in the future, in the very near future. So as people come to us, as new opportunities come to us, we're not turning anybody away. We're continuing to enhance our printer support, and it's really robust now, and it's just going to get better. And this is an industry where there's been a difficulty. Companies can't just go out and get, hey, I'm going to grab a label printer and I'm going to start printing labels. They need the software. They need the ability to do that. And doForms makes it possible for a non-technical person to basically get to a solution where they can scan inventory and print a label to put on that inventory and do all the things they need to do just by being in the doForms platform and not having to worry about how does that printer get set up and how does that template get built for that printer and how do I manage that, and what if I don't advance the paper correctly and all this. doForms is handling all that stuff for you. You take it out of the box and you just start using it. So I'm going to open it up for some questions, and if we don't get any, I'm just going to literally continue to present some of the things that we're doing today with 7.0. So John, I have my assistant here. If anybody wants to ask a question, feel free to just type it into chat and we can go ahead and do that. I will tell you, so the plan once again for 7.0 is to have 7.0 be released on Monday. It's in beta right now. Anybody that wants to look at it in beta, you can go to, if you're not familiar with our beta environment, contact doForms, ask to get access to beta, and we will give you access to beta. It's the same system. It goes against your data. but you need to be in the beta portal if you're developing forms, and you need to use the beta app if you build anything using the beta portal, so that it has the features in the app when you go to do your tests. One other thing to know as well is if you'd like to be on the beta test list. So we have a beta test list that will give you pre-notice and pre-access to the beta. So if you want to make sure that your forms are working correctly before we go ahead and put these new versions out on the app stores, by all means, you can contact us and ask us to be part of the beta test program. Now, everything that you heard today, everything that I said, this wasn't, the purpose of this presentation wasn't to be a demo. It wasn't to show you how to do it. It's not a how-to video. If you need information on the new features in 7.0, you can contact your mobile solutions consultants. You can contact your partner representatives. Just say, hey, I need to, I heard about this today. I heard about geofencing. That's really important to me. How do I take advantage of that? I want to be able to do that. We have a question, John?
Yes. If I'm using an iPhone, can I use a Bluetooth GPS to talk to doForms rather than the built-in iPhone GPS?
We do have that ability. We do have customers that are using Bluetooth devices to come into us. Sometimes they're a little bit more accurate than what comes on the standard device. You can contact Nick Legg, who's our CIO. I know he's done that multiple times with customers. Nick's got a tremendous amount. He's been in GPS business for about 20 years. So just contact Nick, and Nick can show you and maybe even give you some advice on which devices make sense. Any more or good? Keep going. All right. So, we have a marketplace. If you stay on, you'll see the loop of the marketplace. We've worked really hard. We have a new thing coming out. We just released Square capability. So if you want to do credit cards, Square is out there now. It's in production. People are using it. Works very nicely. You can do credit card payment from your mobile. You can do credit card payment from the browser. So you could have credit card payment built into your form. You could basically use our forward capability to forward your customer the form, and your customer can basically be directed right to the credit card payment section. They put in their credit card information. It's all secured through Square. It's all compliant, PCI compliant. They pay. You have variables that come back. You can pass variables so the customers don't need to retype in that information ever. It automatically gets sent from the information within your form. The credit card gets processed. You get data back so that you can set destination fields in your form, like how much was charged and was the charge successful or not. And you're good to go. So you can do mobile credit card payment using the Bluetooth swipe or the chip reader that they have, Square has. And if you send it to somebody, and let's say they open it on the browser, it opens up the browser and asks them to type in their email address. So, with the Square stuff today, because you can take doForms and embed them into your websites, you could literally create an e-commerce website in minutes. You could set up a whole e-commerce website that says, hey, I want to sell these products. They have a table. They pick the products they want to sell. It calculates how much the invoice is. They have a payment button. They hit a payment button. It pops up Square. They type in their credit card information. They hit done. You got a full transaction. That same thing can send an email to the warehouse and tell them to fulfill it. It can send an email to sales and tell them that another order was just placed. So you have all the power of doForms and all the workflow and automated workflow and rules and logic, but now you can incorporate Square payments into that. We're also working on something as we speak for a customer that'll allow you to generate a shipping label. So we partner with a company called Shippo, where you can say, hey, I need a package that's 50 pounds to go from New York to California. Give me what my options are. And depending on how you set up your Shippo account, it'll come back and go, well, FedEx will be $1 and UPS will be $10 and the post office will be, $5. And you could say, okay, I want the post office one, and you hit a button and your label will print out, whether it's through the desktop or whether you're doing it on a mobile. You have a question?
Many of our techs are in the remote oil fields. Is the GPS function able to find very remote locations?
So, GPS is a function of satellites, right? And they're all over the sky. So you can always get your GPS reading. The question may be more guided towards, are you able to reverse geocode that down, and what's the level of accuracy you can get? Well, if you're out in a field and you don't have big buildings and trees and metal and everything, you're going to get a very high degree of accuracy. And there's settings in doForms where you could say, hey, don't take a setting unless it has this level of accuracy. So, in those particular cases where you're out in the open, you could set that to a lower number, a lower accuracy number, so that, it's within, let's say, 5 feet versus, I'm going to maybe be in a building, so 1,000 feet is good enough. It'll still let me know that I was here. As far as the reverse geocoding, those are really based on things like Taiga data, and just because you think you're at this particular address doesn't mean that the Taiga data knows that you're exactly at this address. So the Taiga data could come back and say you're at 200 versus 300, just because it only allocates sort of addresses across a wide block, an entire block, let's say. But feel free if you have any more questions on the GPS stuff. Also in the oil fields, we have partners that have intrinsically safe devices that we've certified on. So if that's something important to you, an intrinsically safe device, for those of you that don't know, doesn't spark, it's sealed. So when you're in an environment like gas and oil and different places, it's a safer product. Do we have another question, John?
Yes. I don't use doForms to send my jobs to employees because I haven't been able to attach a document to the dispatch. Is that a possibility with 7.0?
Yes. So you now have the ability to attach documents at the time of dispatch and at the time of building a form. So one option is when you're building a form, you could say, hey, I want to attach this PDF. I want everybody to get it, right? So you attach that PDF and then everybody gets it. The other option you have is during dispatch, you can say, hey, I have to send my worker not only this job, but they need the site schematics in order to be able to perform that task. Well, now at the time of dispatch, you can attach PDFs along with the dispatch. We have a customer doing that today that they lay carpet down. And when the original salesperson goes in, they figure out how the carpet's supposed to be cut and glued together, and it's called a cut sheet, I guess. And when the person goes out to do the installation, all they know is they bought 14 feet of carpet and somebody laid it out so that it would be cut like this and glued like this, and they get that cut. They have the ability to send that cut sheet with them. Great opportunity. We actually built that, for that particular customer. And let me make this point to you guys, which is, the nice thing about doForms is, if we don't have a feature, and you need it, you could always tell us about it. That doesn't mean we can make it happen by tomorrow for you, but we certainly will make every effort to add it into our future releases. But you also have the option to call us up and go, look, you got us 98% of the way there. We need this one feature, and it's the difference between us being able to go or not. And we can't always do that for free because we got to stop a lot of things. We may have to do overtime and additional testing. But we'll do that for you. We'll incorporate in those additional features. That's how many of our solutions, our new features are getting in the system today, because customers have to have them, and they have to have them when they need them. And I think it's more important for us to be able to say to you, there's an option for that, than to say to you, hey, so sorry, we got you 98% of the way there, and there's just no way to get that other 2%. So if there's really something unique that you need, feel free to call us up. We'll design it with you. We'll analyze your requirements. We'll put a plan together for you, and we'll give you a quick little proposal. And the proposal is not there to make money. It's really just there to prioritize you into the queue, and make sure that you can go out and successfully deploy your solution. So we're not in the professional services business. Our goal is not to have you come back. Most of our competition will say, hey, our product is $30 a month, but we need $20,000 to get that feature. We're not about that. We're not about the extra 20,000. We're hoping we can get you out for the, $10 to $20 a month for the product. And if we have to build something for you, we'll do it as affordably as possible, just to make sure you can get that deployed. Any more questions there, John?
No, we don't.
Keep typing them if you want to. I can go all day on questions. It's not a problem. Are we timing out there?
I think we're timing out.
Okay. I'm seeing a little circle on my screen here, so I don't know if, I guess the presentation went away. What timed out?
Presentation timed out.
Presentation. I thought our internet was going away. See that? The power of technology. So we got another 5 minutes here. Happy to answer questions. But I want to kind of go through, 7.0. When 7.0 comes out, by all means, look at the functionality. We're updating the help documentation as we speak here. But you're going to want to understand 7.0 also in terms of workforce manager. So if you can stay on for another 15 minutes, I know we're taking 15-minute breaks, get into the workforce manager piece. Or if you can't do that, watch the video after we post it, or give us a call and we'll do a presentation for you on workforce manager. But a lot of these new features have been integrated into workforce manager. So like send status to map is a new feature. It's integrated into workforce manager. That's where you're going to see it. So it's a form-based feature, but it's also a form-based feature that results in a change in the portal. So you're going to want to learn as much as you can about workforce manager. Workforce manager, we've improved the view data section of it. So you can do things like create views and dynamically store them and then recall your views up. View data today in the portal basically gives you a form-based orientation. In workforce manager, you could have a form-based orientation, or you could have a user orientation. In other words, see your list of users down the side. So I think a lot of you will start to see workforce manager really as the culmination of doForms becoming a solution, a full solution platform that really makes it easy for you to do stuff. And important too, if you're on the session here today and you're somebody interested in becoming a reseller, or you're somebody interested because you have a knowledge of an industry and you'd like to be able to offer a solution to that industry, we're offering a lot of new features that'll let you build solutions. You have a question, John?
Yeah, what is the best way to see some of the new features in action? That is, how can we see what other users have done with doForms?
So, obviously we don't really try to show people what other people have done because of a security, aspect of it. But if you guys would like to see, 7.0 in action, you'd like to talk about a particular function, by all means, contact your sales rep, contact your mobile solutions consultant, just contact doForms and say, hey, was on your event, listened to your session, heard John speak about all these great things, want to get to see him for myself. We'll set up a one-on-one webinar with you and we'll go through all the new features and show you how to use them and answer any questions you may have. Happy to do that. You have another?
No.
Okay.
That's
So getting back very quickly to, sort of making it possible for resellers and other people to create their own solutions. One of the infrastructures we've laid into, let's say, a workforce manager is if you create an account and you set that account up perfectly and you change all the labels accordingly. If you want to make a Spanish version, you can change all the labels to Spanish or another language. You could basically build that account, put all the forms in it, set up all the data sources, build reports, set up a whole bunch of stuff. And then we're going to give you the ability so that when somebody says, hey, I want to try, this free pest control, I want to try your pest control solution for free. What it's going to do is it's going to basically set them up an account and it's going to copy your account completely over into that account so that all of the forms that were created, all the data sources, the reports, everything that was configured, all the labels, it will totally mirror that account. So by as a reseller, somebody who wants to create vertical solutions, we'll talk about this more in our partnering session. We have the ability for you now to create a specific verticalized solution set, and then have the ability for people to be able to get access to that without having to do manually, copy everything and rebuild that for every account that they want to create. So there's a lot of new things in doForms for a lot of people, whether you're a reseller, a partner, whether you're one of our customers, whether you're a potential customer, please call us. We one of the things I've been saying throughout the presentations, doForms does not hide behind a website. We don't hide behind a customer service call number. We have chat where we have people manning the chat sessions. We have teams overseas where we can be responsive at nights. We have people with personal phone numbers. When you contact doForms, you always get a mobile solutions consultant or a partner that you're working with. So we try to make it that you always have a real person to engage with, and call us if you have a solution. If you have a problem you need a solution to, you may not be able to figure it out. Maybe you're good at doForms, but you're not great at doForms. That's fine. Call us up and say, hey, I've got a problem. Show us how we can use all these new features and pull them together and get our problem solved. We're about solving your problems. What we represent to our partners is the ability to help customers solve problems. And by virtue of getting a problem solved and getting a usable solution, we sell software, the partner sells hardware, the partner sells data plans, and everybody's happy because at the end of the day, the customer has a value. They have something that solves a problem for them. So we want to be there to solve your problem. We want to be there to help. Our partners are there to help. We have great partners now that we work with. Yep, we have another question.
We have the ability to mirror information from one form to another. Can you give an example?
Sure. So you have data in a form, and just let the beep stop for a second. We have time. So if you have data in a form and you want to pull that data, you can use the retrieve and modify. So you can modify in real time or after a form is submitted into another form. So that same data element could be here and here. We have the ability to load another form. So if you wanted to create a menu, and let's just say you have inspection or installation or maintenance, and then you want that to, you hit that button and you want that to launch another form, but maybe that first form that's the menu has the customer ID and all the customer information into it already. You could open up that other form and you can pass it those values so that that other form has those values already pre-populated. And then you can actually pass values from that other form back to the menu. Like I've completed this task, or here was the total revenue, if you're doing some kind of summarization. So you can pass data between forms. You can modify data in real time or after the form is submitted using retrieve modify. You can modify user variables. Like I gave the example where you could go in and have the address in one form, but I want to modify the user variable. So now it's the last known address of that, or last job address. So there's all kinds of ways to replicate data between user variables from form to form and from one form to modify data into another form. And if that doesn't answer your question, give us a call. So unless we have any more questions, I'm going to bring this session to a close. We'll be doing our next session on the Workforce Manager, and feel free to join that one. I think it's going to be a really exciting new platform you're going to want to take part of. Thank you, guys.